Hi there, Square Enix and all Final Fantasy fans. My name is Alex, and this is my tribute video for the Final Fantasy 30th anniversary. So, I'm here to talk about my love for Final Fantasy, for this franchise, and everything it has given me over the years. We're talking about how I started with this franchise and where I've gotten over the years. It's an interesting story, so I hope you stick with me. Okay. Back in elementary school, I must have been like 10, 11 years old. This friend of mine, he said, I have this awesome game at home and I'm playing it. So if you want to come over, you can watch me play. So I ended up going over, and that's how I got introduced to the world of this fantastic game. And yes, even though he kept calling Sephiroth, okay, that's how I was first mesmerized by the world of Final Fantasy VII and Gaia and Cloud and Aerith, Tifa, and all those other fantastic characters. Unfortunately, I myself did not have a PlayStation at that time, so I just had to make do with watching him play. But that's how I was first introduced to the series. Then I got to watch him play Final Fantasy VIII as well. But that's when I decided that enough was enough. I had to go out and get a PlayStation of my own. But at that age, it was a little too late to get either Final Fantasy VII or 8. So this was the game that introduced me to the series. This is my most prized possession out of the series so far. It's Final Fantasy IX. And I still treasure those characters and that world to this day. Zidane, Vivi, oh I love the story of Vivi. Dagger or Garnet, Steiner, Beatrix, all those characters, although I didn't really understand Queen. uh, and all of them. I was recently very pleasantly surprised with the decision of Square Enix to re-release the game on the PS4, and I played my heart out. So yeah, that was the game that really got me into the franchise. After that, I was drawn into the Final Fantasy series, and I can't say I really missed many of the games since then. A few years went by, PS2 came out, and so did this little gem, Final Fantasy X, which was, of course, my first game on the PS2. It was the reason why I bought a PS2. It was so I could play this, but also it was the reason why how I could be reintroduced to the Final Fantasy series through this game, Dirge of Cerberus. It's a hidden little gem that not many know about, and I don't know why it gets some hate. Let's say not many people are crazy about this game, but I loved it. I loved the fact that Vincent, one of my favourite characters through out of Final Fantasy VII, got his own game, and I love the story, and I loved everything about it. The action sequences and the CGI. That's the word I'm looking for. The CGIs were amazing. They were incredible, and I loved them. And it really brought those characters, those sprite characters, to life. And I loved every minute of it. It was incredible. So anyway, yeah, that's how I got a PS2. I was drawn into that game. I was also drawn into Final Fantasy X, and I loved those characters as well. Out of Final Fantasy X, I really liked Waka and Auron, of course. They were my favorite characters. Riku was also very fun. She was very cheerful, very upbeat, and that's what I really liked about Final Fantasy X. Of course, the story was amazing, and the ending was incredible. Like, oh my god! And also, I got this game afterwards. It introduced a different kind of world to what I've been used to for a Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy XII introduced the kind of world that you would see in different franchises, and it was an interesting proposition for the franchise. It was something that I really liked. The content seemed a little more mature and seemed to be really pushing the franchise into different areas, and I really appreciated it. Even the language that was used in it, it wasn't something that I had heard of in any type of video game. Like, it was English, but it was English that I really had to focus to understand, because at that age I was only, I think when I played Final Fantasy XII, I must have been 16, 17 at that age, and I did not understand what they were talking about. So I personally had to enrich my vocabulary in order to understand that game. So it really helped me out. Um, it really helped me out to become better with my English skills, which me personally, I needed, because I studied in the field of journalism. So it was good for me. I really appreciated what Final Fantasy XII did for me personally. It gave me a lot of new words, a lot of different words, a lot of difficult words, which I had to understand if I was to really get what was going on and deal with it more easily. So yeah, I appreciated it for what it was and for what it did. But also the story was a bit more different than what we might have been used to. It wasn't as spectacular as, say, Final Fantasy X, but it was definitely more intriguing and more underhanded, like with the politics and all that, which was definitely a better way to go for a Final Fantasy game, in my opinion. So after that, there was we were introduced to the seven console generation era, and with that came this Final Fantasy 13, which brought with it a trilogy. This trilogy. Now, I really love these games because apart from the incredible visuals, they talk about a story of a group of people that are literally struggling against the entire world. I really like, uh, especially out of this trilogy, I really like the story of Noel. Noel, to me, is a character that literally defies fate, defies time, defies space, just to bring happiness to the one person that he really loves. And Caius is a bit of a similar, has a bit of a similar story, but the way Noel goes about it in order to cooperate with people in order to do this is a bit better. Even though Noel has a bit of a tragedy, which I won't spoil, at the end of 13.2, he still hangs on to hope, and Lightning helps bring it back to him at the middle of the third game. And I really like the aspect, especially visiting Noel's world at the middle towards the end of 13.2. I really came to enjoy that character and understand that character. I liked his design a lot as well, but yeah, he was, in my personal opinion, he was the best to come out of this trilogy. Caius was a bit of a badass, I won't lie. Also liked Snow. I also like Snow. He was I like upbeat characters in general, and Snow had this upbeatness about him. Fang was a bit of a badass too. Talking about this trilogy, I have to say that because I'm from Greece, and this video is being recorded in Greece right now. So here in Greece, we don't get a lot of events or community events or anything of a sort here in Greece, which I understand. My love for Final Fantasy took me all the way to London for the release of the third game of the trilogy. And at the fan event at London at a certain store, which I will not name, I had the pleasure of meeting uh, Yoshinori Kitase, the producer of the game, and he was kind enough to sign this for me. I don't know if you can see the signature because of the glare. I got the limited edition, and this has been one of my most prized possessions to this day. I also got a picture taken with him, which I will try to post in this video. But because I'm not good with YouTube videos, I will also post a link, or I'll try to do whatever just to get this picture shown to the world that, you know, I took a picture with Yoshinori Kitase. I think during the time between the release of Final Fantasy XII and Final Fantasy XIII, there were other things, like they were all, I think, centered on Final Fantasy VII. The one was this, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, which was the incredible story of Zack. Zack Fair, one of the best characters to ever grace the series. He was fun, but he was tough too, and he was just all around incredible. And the other one was this. Okay, go away, glare. Let me show what I want to show. Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, complete, which was the return in fantastic CGI graphics of Cloud, of Sephiroth, of Barret, of Red 13, who I really like, of Vincent, of everyone. And boy, did I love this movie. I really love this movie, but I especially like the complete edition because there was more Zack in it. 30% more Zack. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that movie and the game as well because it gave us more insight on what had happened. Generally, the entire compilation of Final Fantasy VII with these three, but even more that were released were things that I really enjoyed the heck out of because, you know, 7, even though I didn't play it when it came out, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, it was the game that got me introduced to the series. So I really wanted the return of those characters. I really want to see more of those characters. And to this day, I still do. And I don't think that there's a Final Fantasy fan that doesn't want to see more of these characters. If we can get more Cloud, if we can get more badass Sephiroth, if we can get more Vincent, more Barret, more Red 13, more Tifa, Aerith, and if we can get more of that world and the depth of that world, then I think we'll just keep getting happier. Because yeah, of course, we love new games, but don't get me wrong, we're all about those because I think for a lot of us, that was the access point. That was the entry point that got us into the franchise. There have been games that I've multi-purchased because of new editions, because of limited editions, because of special editions. One of them that holds a special place in my heart is Final Fantasy Type 0. Now, I really waited for this game to come out ever since I heard about it on the PSP. I was trying for years not to find out what this story was about. I did my best to remain spoiler free, and I really, really battled with the internet for years because I was invested once I found out what this story was about, and once I found out how this game played, like an old style Final Fantasy. And I really, really liked what it had to say. I did play some sort of version of it, but not for long, and that's when I was even more invested in it. I knew and I had faith that eventually it would be released here in the West as well, and I thought I'd wait it out. I knew that Square Enix would make the right decision about this, and thankfully I was rewarded. So I thought I'd pay back that decision and that faith that they decided to give to us in the West by buying it twice. It was a bit of a tragic game, but I really like that it wasn't afraid to go there and end in that way because we can't always have happy endings, not in games and not in life. And this game really delivered that message in a very hard way. Other games that I've multi-purchased are Final Fantasy X, because, well, the first one is the PS2 edition, the second one is a PS3 edition, and the third one is a PS4 edition. So, I wanted to have it on all consoles. One is not enough. One is never enough. And the third and final one is Final Fantasy 12, because, well, of course, again, we have the PS2 edition, but I pre-ordered for the PS4. I had pre-ordered this hard copy, the Steelbook edition, but it wasn't getting here quickly enough, so I couldn't wait, and I went out and bought this one on day one, just so I could play it. Even though I know what the game's about, and even though I had finished it already, it didn't matter. I really, really wanted to play it. It's not exactly a multi-purchase. It's a game that I have purchased again and again and again. Is Final Fantasy 14. I have to mention about Final Fantasy 14 that even though I don't play MMO, I am not an MMO player. I'm strictly a single player game fanatic. The story of Final Fantasy 14 has really got me invested in it. I love coming back to that game, and I love the story, and I love the characters like Alphino, Alizé, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, and the Ascians. I'm really invested to see what happens with the Ascians, because they don't really appear, but this sort of sense of mystery behind them, and it's like, when are they going to show up? What are they going to do next? It's like, what's going on with them? And the primals, it's like whenever primal shows up, you get all tensed up and you're like, okay, I have to do this now. So it's like, it's an incredible game that, even though it's an MMO and you have to invest and play with others, and sometimes that might, especially in the beginning, when on the PS3, when I had no idea how to play an MMO, or what a tank or a DPS or a healer is. I was really trying to get into it, and I was failing, and I was bombing hard, and I was getting kicked out of parties. But I stuck with it because I wanted to, go through the story. And that's the thing about Final Fantasy that has really made me play the game since day one. I also have Final Fantasy 1 through 6 on my phone, or on the PlayStation Network. Out of them, I really, really love the story of Final Fantasy 4, and how the main character, I think Cecil was his name, how he goes through this transformation from Dark Knight to Paladin, and how he rediscovers himself, and he doesn't want to be this thing anymore. He just doesn't want to be this pawn for the King of Baron, and he just says, "No, I'm not doing this anymore. There's light inside me. I can be a different person." So he decides to do that. But also, I like Kain. Kain is one of the greatest characters in Final Fantasy for me, who remains who he is, and yet he fights for his own ideals. Also, Final Fantasy VI, yes, but I like Final Fantasy VI, but I don't think, because I played it a lot later on down the line, I can't put it on the same pedestal as other players might do. And that brings us to today, where the final shining gem has been added to the franchise with this Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 has been an incredible journey. We've been waiting for Final. I have been waiting for Final Fantasy 15 for the past 10 years. Now, yes, I know, before anyone says anything, it wasn't Final Fantasy 15 until 2013-14, when it was rebranded as such. Before that, it was Versus 13, and such a thing doesn't exist anymore. Okay, yeah, we're over that. But still, For Noctis and Prompto and Gladiolus and Ignis, we've been waiting for such a long time, and we were given the promise of an incredible game, and that was delivered in such an incredible fashion. And I love the characters, and I love the antagonist. Oh my god, I love the silkiness of his voice, but also the fact that he's so evil without having to do much. Like he's barely there. I really like the antagonists that barely show up, that are like that scare you through just the mention of their name. Like oh my god, is Arden gonna show up here, or where is Arden, or Arden did this again? Like he's not even there, and yet everyone's afraid, and because of what he might do next. So yeah, I also liked characters like Regis. He was like incredible. Um, Aranea is fantastic. She's like she won't take any from anyone. And yeah, the whole story though for Noctis was so deep, so meaningful. How he went from pretty much a small brat in the beginning. If you watch Brotherhood, which I watched the entire thing, I watched Brotherhood, I watched Kingsglaive, I watched pretty much everything that came out. I've seen it. So if you watch Brotherhood and how he has these relationships with Ignis or Gladiolus, you can see that Noctis is not ready to take up any sort of mantle. So through the story of 15 and through these events that transpire, you can see him trying to become something different, become more responsible, become take on the burdens that people have left for him. But he's not ready. He can't do it just yet. And at some point, he crumbles and he's like, you know, why are you doing this to me? Like, I can't. But then it's at a certain point in the story, he's like, I'm here, I'm doing this for you, for everyone, for the sacrifices you've made. I'm going to do this. And it's like, yeah, okay, I see you, you're badass, you're cool, but at the same time, I don't want you to do this because I know what it means. So for us as players, we understand the consequences of these actions, and we almost don't want to finish the game. We don't want it to happen. But still, there were some awesome epic battles with the Astrals. Oh my god, that battle with Leviathan or Titan or Ifrit at the end. Wow, incredible. That's as far as it goes for games. As I said, the rest of them are in my phone. I have a few collector's editions for Type O, for 14, the 2.0. However, my love for Final Fantasy took me this year to see the Distant Worlds concert in Italy, where it was held for the first time in Milan. Unfortunately, I don't speak Italian, so I wasn't really able to communicate with the people that were there. But that made absolutely no difference. I was able to enjoy the fantastic music from the franchise. It was incredible, such a fantastic experience to be able to see the videos on the wall and listen to the songs. Uh, it was like I was playing the game. It was such a unique event in my life because, as I've mentioned, I've been going on with this franchise since I was 11, 12, and I'm over 30 right now, even though I might not look it. And it's been such an incredible journey, which I will, I think, will only continue with games coming out like the CDR, Final Fantasy NT, like the Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Like I'm probably forgetting something at this point, but with the episode Ignis coming out in December, ooh, can't wait for that. Yeah, and more updates for this game because I can't really get enough of Final Fantasy 15. So yeah, give us as much as you can. Maybe something about Arden. I don't know. Crossing my fingers. So yeah, as much as much Final Fantasy as we can get, I think we'll be there. Me personally, I'll do my best to follow through as much as I can, even from this distant corner of the world that I'm at. I just want to thank Square Enix for delivering this incredible franchise and these fantastic stories, because for me personally, it's the stories of these people that usually dealt with insurmountable odds, but always find the strength and the will to come through. And that's what makes me keep coming back to yet another and another and another game. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot to mention World of Final Fantasy, which I really loved, even though it was a picture book kind of world. I really, really enjoyed, and I'm actually going to replay it in a little bit. So, yeah, it's been a hell of a ride with Final Fantasy. I'm sure it will continue to be. We will continue to enjoy these journeys, these stories. And all I have to say is, yeah, thanks for the ride.